Our program tonight, we have a longtime friend and fellow genealogist and speaker of great interest. And he came to my rescue. Actually, our speaker tonight, he ignored my first attempts to get contact with him, but then when I found his phone number, he, not unlike Bruce, he answered the phone. He responded to the phone call. So, but before I get to that, I wanted to let you know that I'm working to fill out the remaining calendar of programs for this year. And as I mentioned a month ago, I've come upon on the internet several groups of genealogy speakers. So if you have a topic you would like to have covered by a program specific, please let me know. I will be looking to fill 2 more slots for 2025. Incidentally, our June speaker will be via Zoom. We'll cover the creation of an ancestral sketch. It's a little different approach. It is the production or producing a short 3 to 5 page sketches about an ancestor. You'll learn how to include a cover, photos, facts, family stories, source, citations, and more. And that program will be on June the 5th. We also have our after-meeting refreshment sign-up at the back table. I think I have 2 months yet open. So if someone would like to provide for that later this year, that would be appreciated. About our speaker tonight, Robert Gibbons is here with a tutorial on understanding AI and through the use of FamilySearch. I know so far very little about AI, so I will not stand here and tell you all about it. I will turn it over to Mr. Gibbons and we'll go from there.
I hope you don't think I'm going to be able to tell you everything about AI. You know, it was interesting. The other day, I was in a meeting with quite a few people, and the speaker made a comment and said, how many of you use AI? And I think 4 or 5 of us out of about 50 raised our hand. And I sat there and I thought, I don't know much, but I know enough to know that I dare you to go through a day without using AI. In fact, I pretty much dare you to go an hour without using some form of artificial intelligence, because it's everywhere. Okay, and it's been everywhere for a long time. We're in the middle of a revolution right now. I always think back to my grandfather, who was born in the 1880s. So he was born in the horse and buggy era. And his goal in life was to live to see man on the moon. He didn't quite make it because he died a year before man stepped on the moon. But he was able to go from horse and buggy to cars to airplanes to rockets. And so I was born in 47, so I've been able to go through quite a change in the world also. Well, there's a big change in the world occurring right now, and it has to do with this artificial intelligence. So it kind of behooves us to understand what's going on, because there's a big change in artificial intelligence, and we'll be talking about that a little bit. Question, how many of you actually use FamilySearch? Okay, a few of you don't. Okay, how many of you actually use the tree on FamilySearch? That's usually a tough question. Okay, so now, for those of you that use FamilySearch, and I know what you're doing, you're going over there to look at the records, but you don't care about the tree because you don't want to get involved in this cooperative tree thing, right? Go over there, and if you want to use the tool we're going to show you today, you go over there and you find the person you're looking to research over in that tree. just so that you can turn on artificial intelligence and let it help you find more information about the person. I guarantee you'll be more productive than your own digging, no matter how good a researcher you think you are. I guarantee you'll find stuff faster and probably find things you would have never found otherwise by using this particular tool that we're going to talk about today, called an AI research assistant. So with that, we'll talk a little about what we're going to do. We're going to talk a little bit about artificial intelligence in general, then AI and family search. But you could also substitute Ancestry, Find My Past, MyHeritage, all those different companies, because they're all in the same boat. This particular tool, the research assistant, is specific to family search. But every one of these sites uses artificial intelligence. We'll talk about how family search is moving into AI in the 21st century. Then we'll talk about what this product is, and we're going to show you how it works. Okay? So, talking a little bit about what artificial intelligence is. I went and looked it up, but I didn't know if I could explain it with my layman's background. So I went and looked it up using some artificial intelligence, a thing called Google. And it says artificial intelligence is a specialty within computer science that is concerned with creating systems that can replicate human intelligence and problem-solving abilities. So it tries to replicate our human intelligence as best it can and then solve problems. They do this by taking a myriad of data, in other words, a humongous amount of data, processing it, and then learning from their past in order to streamline and improve the future. And so that, in a nutshell, is what is going on when we talk about artificial intelligence. Now, a little history, it goes all the way back to the Greeks. And I went and looked this up today, and I'm not going to try to explain it, but it's talking about Plato and Socrates and their general notions about what intelligence was and how it was outside the realm of the human person or the human persona. So even they had an idea that there was something out there that if they could harness it, they'd be able to use it. And they tried their best, but they couldn't. So from there, we can come all the way up to around 1952 when Arthur Samuel developed a game, if you want to call it that, an artificial intelligence program that played checkers. You could play checkers against it. I imagine most of us that are my age probably played checkers once or twice against the machine. Then after that, it moved into chess. And I remember the first time the artificial intelligence thing beat the chess master. And it took them several years to reach that point, but that's how artificial intelligence works. It learned from its mistakes and eventually was able to take Kasparov and beat him at his own game. Okay, so for the next, 1955, they coined the term artificial intelligence, and for the next 30, 40 years, about all we really saw of it outwardly were these games and things that were developed, like the chess playing thing. The big surge in genealogy began around the year 2012 when FamilySearch moved into New Dot Family Search and Ancestry was going big. Some of these other companies were starting up. We start seeing a lot more AI tools out there. I would call these at level 1. This is AI 1. We're moving into the era of AI 2, which is a more advanced time period. So, where is AI? As I said, you can't get through a day. There's a list of things that are AI. Siri, Alexa, Google, Bing, any search engine, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, all operate off of artificial intelligence. Online shopping like Amazon, robots that you see in any form around the world. transportation and navigation, GPS. How many of you use GPS lately? That's artificial intelligence. And it goes on and on. Autocorrect, grammar correct, fraud prevention. Thank heavens your banks are into this. My bank gets a hold of me periodically saying, hey, did you make that purchase? And sometimes I have to try to convince them, yeah, I really did make that purchase. And then all other kinds of things. The whole point is it's everywhere. It really is. Okay, so what about FamilySearch? Just think FamilySearch or any of the major websites out there all have the same basic problem. They have a ton of records. FamilySearch has these 2.4 million rolls of microfilm that got digitized, which are billions of pages of data that need to be made into a format that we can access. Otherwise, we can't do anything with all of it. They have over 6.5 billion record images already that are up on their website, and many of them aren't indexed. They have over 5,000 digital books, and their tree has 1.6 billion people in it. That's a B, not an M. 1.6 billion people in that tree. So they've got some serious problems. Every company has a serious problem. And so the problem didn't get better, it was getting worse. I know about FamilySearch. They were using indexing to try to bring these records online for us. The trouble was, every month they would index this much and they would add this much. And so every month they were that much further behind. And they had to find a way to change things and get a paradigm shift. And in 2024, a year ago, back in 24, the paradigm shift started occurring at FamilySearch. And they moved into what I would call AI 2 and started putting out some new tools. But before that, the things that they had that were these AI 1 things, all of the things that are listed here, I just sat down and I went through what are the different features in FamilySearch that use artificial intelligence. Well, the find feature, when you put a name in and say, go find this person, that's artificial intelligence out there looking for you. You're not doing the looking, the machine is. Search, when you go over to the records and you say, I want a record that's about this person born in this date, place, and it goes out and brings you back things, that's because it's using artificial intelligence to go through those millions of records. Possible duplicates, again, using artificial intelligence, it goes through this 1.6 billion people trying to find if there's another one like the guy you're sitting on right now. And their hint system, same thing. It says, okay, here's this person. Are there any of these records out here that are searchable by name that might pertain to this guy or gal? That's artificial intelligence. These are things that they've been using all along. Their recent changes, their relationship diagrams, their pedigree charts, descendancy charts, those are actually generated through artificial intelligence. The feature called watching, where you can watch a record to see if anybody makes changes to it, or the about page or the brief life story that's on every person and tree. That's generated by artificial intelligence. And it goes on and on and on and on. Okay, but those are all kind of level 1 things. They're not really a real deep thing. They're purely simple, kind of keep things flowing kind of things. Now we need to go deeper and be able to do more than we've done in the past and move into the 21st century for real. Okay, and the role of modern AI is going to be to automate the gathering of the data, to find ways to do it in a better, more efficient way, recognize the patterns that are there inside that data so it can more rapidly tie things together or match up the data with the people you're looking for, and even start to develop insights into family history, which is a hard thing for it to do because now it's getting close to that level of reasoning and thinking like humans, and it's going to take a while for it to ever, I think, get to that level. I think recognizing patterns, automating data, Those are things it can handle real well. The third one, well, we'll see what happens. Okay, here are some things they introduced last year. These are the AI 2-level things. FamilySearch dumped last week indexing. It doesn't exist anymore. They turned it off. They flipped the switch. They went to a thing called Get Involved. Get Involved is a big change because Get Involved is where people can now go in and still help FamilySearch get records ready for people to search. But first, the AI program reads the documents and pulls up all the names, dates, places, and stuff for you. And all the people have to do is go back and verify the names and make sure the names are accurate. Because the rest of it is at such a high level of accuracy to begin with that it doesn't really need monitoring per se. You can still edit it if they botched it. But the names are the key thing. And so they've gone to this. The difference is, using this, they could in one day create documents that have been read by the machine and transcribed that would be equal to 2 or 3 years worth of transcription in a day. I mean, there's the big difference. The amount of data it can process over what humans were able to do is just astronomical. Okay? Another one is full text search. That's another one of these, what they call experiments, and what we're going to talk about tonight is one of their new experiments. It's going to go totally live and be there forever, but it's still under development. Well, they have another one called full text search, where they have now been able to go in with the machine and do OCR, you know, optical character recognition, on both typed and cursive documents in multiple languages and transcribe every word in the documents. And then you go in and do the search. And it won't just pick those specific little fields that when we did indexing we were covering. It'll cover every single word in there. So if your person is mentioned over here as a non-major person on the document, it'll still pull them up for you. They'll say, oh, that guy's name's in this document, even though the document's about this guy and this guy. He's over here too. And you would have never seen that before. And then they have a couple of chatbots. Now that's a term you need to get to know. A chatbot is a chat. You're chatting with a machine. You're chatting with artificial intelligence. That's what it really means. A chatbot is where they set up a thing. In this case, they have a couple of chatbots that are set up to answer your questions about how the website works, how to use it properly, or where to go find records in different places. You go to the correct chatbot and you ask your question, and it feeds you back the answer. You're going to see that in action tonight. Okay? That is a totally different character. Because before, everything was just kind of like you put in a name or a date or something. That's about all you could do. Now you can ask an actual question. And it will come back with answers for you. Okay, so these were some of the things back in 2024 that were introduced. And now we come to the thing we're going to talk about tonight, AI Research Assistant. Okay, what is it? Well, it's using the power of AI to either add names to the tree or find more information about somebody who's in the tree. And by the way, at the bottom of your handout, you're going to see a link. And that link's my YouTube channel. And this particular presentation is on my YouTube channel. And so you can pull that up. You can watch it again at your leisure. Or you can watch it from the recording that your society is doing today too. You'll also find on that page, and we'll show you on the very last slide tonight, I also have a blog where I also have a link for the YouTube video, but I also have on there a link to the slides that you're seeing. And it's in a PDF document. So you can go to the page that has the AI Research Assistant links, and just click on the link for the PDF of the slides, and you can have a slide PDF that has all these slides on it. And you can do whatever you want with them. But that way you don't have to really take notes. The notes that are on there are most of the writing that are on these pages, if you haven't figured that out already. So anyway, what will this assistant do specifically? Well, it's really a couple of different programs. One of them will search in the tree and find people for you to add. That can be a little bit tricky, and we'll talk about that. The other feature in this will find sources about a person in your tree that are out on the web or on FamilySearch. That's the nice thing about this. You don't have to leave FamilySearch to go look on the web. Let the research assistant do your searching out on the web for you. It can provide answers to your genealogical questions, and it can suggest additional resources where you might find more information. And so this is what it's going to do for you. What it's not doing is trying to replace you. That's the key thing to remember. Any AI tool is not there to replace you. It's there to assist you. That's why they call this a research assistant, not research replacement. Okay, research assistant. It'll help hopefully speed up your researching. And I found that to be true. I find it's a lot easier just to turn to this guy and say, hey, I need this or that, than to go out there and start looking for the things myself, because it'll pull it up quicker. It'll provide comprehensive search with just one click of a mouse, and it will locate sources at sites that you might never have found. And I was just looking at that today. I just broke a brick wall. I'm still trying to verify the people better. I ran this research assistant on the guy, and I found this page out there on something where a person has done a ton of research and had pages and pages of documentation on these people, more than I found anywhere else. And so I've got a lifetime worth of stuff I can go through now, and I've got it from one click of a mouse. So the way I would look at this is AI stuff. You're still the driver of the car. You're thinking of driving your car when researching. You're still driving the car. The only thing is you've been given a bigger, fancier, faster car. So instead of the Volkswagen, you're now driving some luxury SUV. Okay? And that's kind of what has happened here. Okay, there are some limitations. AI isn't perfect. Remember back on that first page it said it learns from its own mistakes. Well, that's true. It will make mistakes, and I pointed out several of them in this presentation. Don't think that that's all it does, even though you'll see a bunch of mistakes tonight. I wanted to show you some of the pitfalls. The rest of the time it gets it right. Okay, I haven't shown you too many of the gets it rights, because it gets it right, it gets it right. What we want to see is how we make sure that we're getting it right. But it'll always say on there, AI makes mistakes, please double check responses. And they really mean that. Don't take it for gospel. It has limitations. It's still learning. It can't search behind paywalls. It can't go do the resources at Ancestry, because those are behind the Ancestry paywall. It has started, though, doing the little cheat thing that they do where they put out on the web the names of people that are in their database, and they give you a teaser so that you'll go sign up for them to go see the whole thing. Well, they're tapping into the teasers now. If you have an Ancestry account, then you can just go ahead and sign in and see everything about the person over there. It's also very literal. You and I, this is where we have the advantage. We are intelligent. We know how to reason, and we know that Samuel Davis Smith could also be called Samuel D. Smith. Or he might just say Davis Smith, or Samuel Smith, or S.D. Smith. We understand that. They can't get AI to quite catch those nuances. So if it's searching for Samuel Davis Smith, and it sees Samuel D. Smith, it's going to say, "No, not the same person." So you're going to have to be willing to do multiple searches to cover all the bases, because it won't always bring you the results. It'll often tell you, oh, these are two different people, when in fact you and I know they're the same person. Okay? It can only be taught to go where it's been taught. So until they teach it to go to more websites, it's got a set number of websites that it works with. And finally, it will never be as smart as you. Be pretty bright, but it's never going to be as smart. Okay, so it's really two different products. The first product is designed to just go find some people in your tree, if you have a tree at FamilySearch, that have hints that appear to be adding a person to the tree. It drives the tool. You don't get to pick where it's going to go looking. It's going to go look in your tree, not back very far, fairly close to you, and try to find some things. It's kind of a teaser, give you a feel for how to get into this and that sort of thing. And so that's one of them. The second product is totally different. In that product, you go over to a person in the tree, and you then start using this tool to help fill in the information about this person. Names, dates, places, parents, spouse, children, that sort of thing. And so you do it through a question and answer routine. The one thing you have to be careful about is if it already has like a birth year, like it says 1848 Missouri, it's going to just say, okay, it says 1848 Missouri. And it's not going to go looking for it. You're going to have to approach it a different way to get more information. If it's something that's missing, then you're better off. If it doesn't have a death date, and you say, okay, let's find a death for this person, it will go find it for you if there's anything about that person's death in FamilySearch or out on the web. Okay, so this is the first product. This is all it looks like. It's just a widget that's thrown up on your home page in FamilySearch once you turn on the program. We'll talk about that in a minute. It's, like I said, it's on your home page. Essentially, it's 5 people in your tree that have a hint, and the hint appears to be wanting to add a person or more to the tree. Okay, that's the logic behind how it operates. The cautions is you've got to review these things carefully. Like I said, it's very literal. You're going to see examples of how when it's literal, it's going to say, oh, there's a duplicate when there really isn't one. And so these are going to stay there. They're not going to go away. They're not going to change unless you do something about that hint situation. You're going to have to either tell FamilySearch, no, that's not a good hint, that's not really about this person at all, or you're going to have to go ahead and attach the hint to somebody or create a new person if it's really a new person. Once it's gone, then they'll substitute another new person into this list. But there'll always be 5 there. They won't change unless you do something about it. And so I think it's more of a teaser at this level. The second one is the one I love. Once you've gone and turned this program on, anytime you go to somebody, this is my second great-grandfather's page, there'll be this little AI research assistant banner across the top of the page. And all you have to do is click open, and it turns on this little widget, which is a chat bot. And this is where it's going to have some questions that you can just click on. Things like, who were William Pillsbury's parents, or who were his children, or who was he married to? Or you can go down to the box down below and ask any question about the person that you want to ask. Okay? And so suggestions, just beware if there's already some data there, you're probably just going to get that data back. So you're not going to see too much there. It won't go behind the paywalls, pick up the extra stuff at Ancestry. things like that. So it'll be a little bit limited. It's not like it's holistic and do everything on earth. It does have a couple of features that aren't really big deals on here, but they are. The very first question in that red box is, help me find genealogical information about this person. You click on that and it's going to give you a list of sources, either out on the web or in FamilySearch about this person. It won't be limited to any one thing about the person. And the other one is, there's also a question down in that red box at the bottom that says, what was it like when this person was alive? And it will give you some information about the world in their day. And it does go outside FamilySearch. It does some things that I like. It goes to a site called WikiTree. It also goes to Jenny.com and several sites that I like because they have a lot of good research on people, especially when you get back into the 1700s, 1700s. You can learn a lot about those people that you can't seem to find anywhere else. Yeah.
And go into specific areas, like what was it like when they were alive in upstate New York?
Yeah.
Something like that.
I want to show you
Okay, good.
One of those. Okay, so let's actually do it. Okay, so here's that first product. How do you get there? On your home page, there's a right-hand column on the page, and on that page, down the column a ways, is a thing called the FamilySearch Labs. This is a lab experiment. So you go down to Labs and you click View Experiments, and then you go looking within the experiments for that second little box, which says, Grow Your Tree with AI Research Assistant. And you click Try It. And then that opens up the home page about AI Research Assistant. And you're going to click on Try Experiment. And when you do, your home page is going to have this first product just planted there at the top of the page. If you have a tree. If you don't have a tree, it's not going to do it. But if you have a tree at all, it's going to show you 5 people that it thinks has somebody that can be added. So we'll just go to the first one, Mary Margaret Mather, and see what comes up. So it takes me over to Mary's page, and it opens up a column on the right-hand side where it says there's a possible child. And if you could read that, it says there's a Marshall Barr listed as a child to Mary Margaret Mather in source data. And the source is a death record from Iowa. Okay, so it's found a hint. That's what that little blue box or circle down there is a hint. And so this is what their page looks like, their family looks like. We've got David Barr married to Mary Margaret Mather. They have no children. They were married in 1872 in Minnesota, or Wisconsin. And I know they moved to Iowa, because there was data, they had census records over in Iowa. So I know they were there. And this is an Iowa death record. And so looking at that death record, here's the transcription for it. It says there's a Marshall Barr who died in 1952, born in 1876, which would be 4 years after they were married. And he was the son of David Barr and Mary Mather. And so there's our couple. And they were in the same county, Wright County, where the family was living when I saw them. And so I know that's really the same person. So we'll go ahead and source it. That adds a person into the tree. That's the way it's supposed to work. Okay? Once I added him, I did what you should always do. You go look for duplicates. It's just because I added him doesn't mean he isn't already a tree. Lo and behold, I actually found this guy floating around a tree, unconnected to any other family. It was just his wife and him. They were connected because somebody found a marriage record for him with this wife and created a record for the wife So I just merged the two Marshall bars together, and now I've got his wife. And I could do searching to see if I could find any others, and I couldn't. What I did discover, which is really off the point, but it's just interesting what you can end up doing. I noticed she died in 1931. And I found that out of a newspaper over at Ancestry. I cheated, I ran over there and said, let's just see what I can find over here. And this newspaper article came up. 44 years old. Newspaper article said she was washing the dishes. She looked out the window onto their porch and saw her husband had left his gun out. He had been out on the back porch shooting squirrels out of the trees. Sounds like a guy in those days. Obviously out in the country where they're not going to hit the neighbors. So she went out to get it. I can just see it. She didn't put anything down. She may have had a pot in one hand and a dish rag in the other hand. And somehow she picked up the gun and probably mishandled it and grabbed it and discharged it and shot herself and killed herself. How sad. Life is tough. But anyway, I just saw that and I thought, no, I would have never known this if I hadn't gone playing around in this family. It's part of my family. Marshall's my cousin, third cousin twice removed or something like that. And so, you know, I found a little bit of the backstory. Okay. Another one was for a Thomas O. Fischel. Fischels are one of my family lines. And like I say, sometimes AI gets things right, sometimes it doesn't. Notice up here, he's married to Mahala Fischel. Obviously, that's not her last name. That was her name off of a census, probably. And you know how that is when you give their married name. And so we're going by Mahala Fischel, and AI found a 1930 census where he's married to a Mahala A. Fischel. Hey, here's a chance for you to add a new person. Come on. You and I know better. See, it doesn't. That's why I say it's dumb compared to you and me. So what do you do with a situation like that? Because you know that's not a new person. You go ahead and you source the record to Mahala Fischel. You can add the age of her name if you want. But it's her, it's still the same wife. But don't create a new wife. Because they're obviously the same person. They have the same approximate birth year and birthplace, that kind of thing. So it was the same person. I mean, he might, by some real stretch of imagination, married another woman named Mahala, but that would be a pretty strange situation. Really, she's the same person. So that time it didn't work. Then there was another one for record for Benjamin Taylor Ewing. And it said that there was a Lucy listed as a child for him in a death record in Pendleton County, Kentucky. Well, Benjamin, by the way, often went by his middle name. I looked at the sources. Half of his sources were Taylor Ewing. He obviously didn't like Benjamin. And he lived in Pendleton County. This child who died in Pendleton County. So I look at the transcription, and what happened?
Get some mountains.
Okay. So I pulled up the transcription. And this is where it teaches you need to read the document if there's a document. Because the transcription says this Lucy A. Ewing, her father's Taylor Ewing, she died in 1912 in Pendleton County, and that's all it tells us. But you know what's on the actual death certificate? It has her full birth date, 1831. It has her full death date, not just 1912, but 13th of December. Her father's listed as Taylor Ewing, mother unknown. That gives me a clue mom's been dead for a long time. Okay? She was single, she never married, that's why she's still carrying her maiden name, which is nice. That helped us find her. And the person who was the informant, because somebody always has to give the information, was somebody named B.T. Ewing. Well, she just happens to have a younger brother, Benjamin Todd Ewing. Well, I figure that's who that was Benjamin Todd Ewing. And so my conclusion was, she fits in the family, let's add her in. Why she never showed up, I don't know. I think it has to do with something to do with the fact that she was born in 1831. She was probably out of the house by 1850, either married or living with somebody else. So she never got hit in the family, so nobody ever picked her up. Okay, Lydia Ann Pearson. Here's a false one. Lydia Ann's married to Aaron Bonnell, and in comes a hint saying maybe a new husband, Ara Runnell. Aaron Bonnell, Ara Runnell. Okay, kind of strange. In the first place, Ara, A-R-R-A, and then R-U-N-N-E-L. Sounds like a strange name. So I'm not going to take it at face value. I'm going to look around. When I looked at the record, I wanted to go see the original. You can't see the original. This is one of these where, oh, you can go, if you want to dig through the records, it's out there in a database that's on FamilySearch, but for whatever reason, the transcriptions and the images aren't coordinated. You're going to have to dig through all of them. And I said, I've seen enough. I just looked at Aaron Bonnell, Ara Runnell. I just figure it's a bad transcription. It's probably a sloppy handwriting, and I'm sure it's probably the same guy. A-R-R-A could have been Aaron, you know, because the letters are the same kind of letters. It's just, you know, sloppy handwriting is hard. When you know what you're looking for, it's easy to tell. When you're a transcriber or, you know, somebody doing indexing, you don't know these people, it's hard to figure it out. So I would just go ahead and source it to Aaron, forget about it from there. Okay, another one, Emma Jane Bailey, just to show you how bad things can get sometimes. It says, she has a new possible husband, R.J. Bortner. Her husband's William H. Bossner. So that's not going to be a transcription error. So I go over and I look at it, sure enough, it says R.J. Bortner. But she's married to Bossner. She's got all these kids. She's got at least 5 kids. I cut it off. There may have been more below there for all I know. Okay, I happen to be a Bortner researcher. My great-grandmother was a Bortner. I have added literally thousands of Bortners to this database. I have never found an R.J. Bortner married to an Emma Jane Bailey. But right there tells me there's something wrong. And so this is, again, one of those records where you can't get to the original directly. You have to go searching. I said, this time I'm going to go search. It took a little time, but I found it. In the old ledger books that they have before census, or before certificates, where one line, you enter one line of data for each birth. And there's a Bortner and a Bosser on lines next to each other. And the book goes across 2 pages. The only thing you need to know is that the first line is supposed to be about Bortner, but when it hit the second page, it dropped down to the second line inside the red box. And Bossner's on the bottom, and when it hit the second page, it jumped up to the first line. And then to make things even more confusing, the father's names are on the first page, so they're correct. But the transcriber switched to fathers and took the father who was in the right place and put it on the other person's record. So it has the wrong fathers and the right mothers instead of the other way around. And it is a mess. So anyway, I was able to figure all that out, and we were able to go and mark these as dismiss the hint, because the hint's not right and I can't fix it. That's one of those databases that you can't edit, unfortunately. So I just have to leave it the way it was for now. And so those are some of the issues you can get into. But quite frankly, more than often, it's correct. Okay, product 2. When you come to the page, if you turn this on, anytime you find a person and tree you want to look at, you go to their person page, the link will be up there. And all you have to do is click open, and you get the chat bot. Okay, that's how it's going to work. So I'm on Glenn Lloyd Smith, and he only has one known child. So first thing in my mind, I wonder if he's got more kids. Now I could go looking, but why don't we just let the chatbot do it? So I click on open, and I go down there and I typed in, who were Glenn Lloyd Smith's children? I hit enter and I counted 11 seconds. And it came back with Dale Frederick Smith, son, age 9, born 9 January 1914. And it gives the source for that. And so that's the family. I went and looked at it, had the right parents and everything. So I was able to go ahead and add that in. And so since he was born 1914, his brother's born 1916, just to be sure, I jumped over to Ancestry because these guys are in Pennsylvania, and I know Pennsylvania has death certificates. Or Ancestry has Pennsylvania death certificates. FamilySearch doesn't. Within 2 minutes, I had both of their death certificates. And so I knew the certificates gave the parents' names, gave the full death date, full birth date. So I knew these were the right people. But the fact is, I didn't have to do much hunting to find them because I just clicked one button, and 11 seconds later, I had the answer. They only have 2 kids. At least only 2 that we found so far. Okay, who did Mary Drum marry? So I've got a Drum family. One of their kids is Mary. And I just kind of wondered if she married anybody. So I asked, who did she marry? And it said, she married Dale D. Drum, according to the 1940 and 1950 censuses. Okay, that sends up a red flag. She's already married Drum. She's going to marry another Drum? Now, if it was Smith, I might give it a 50-50 chance. Drum, nah, I'm not sure about it. So to check it, I'd have to go further. And so in this case, I went further, and I actually found her mother's obituary. And in the obituary, Mary's listed as Mrs. Mary Harmon, not Drum. And so FamilySearch has a marriage record for Mary Drum and this Fred P.M. Harmon in Noble County, Indiana, or Oklahoma, Noble County, Oklahoma, where the family lived back in 1916. So I know who her real husband was. And I just had to disregard it. That's where this thing can get in trouble sometimes. It just doesn't have the smarts that you and I should have. So you always, first thing you do is you say, does this make sense? And if it doesn't, you'll just skip it. Okay. Find Anna D. Ewing's birth date. Okay, Anna, it says she was born in 1848. So I just said, when was she born? 10 seconds later, find a grave. January 1st, 1850. Now, why is that a big deal? Have you ever tried to find people on FamilySearch at Find a Grave? It's worse than trying to find them on Find a Grave. I absolutely detest finding people at FamilySearch on Find a Grave. I don't know what it is about that site, but it's extremely hard. I often find myself going over to Ancestry and finding the memorial, copying the information in on the person, and then the thing will pop up if I get the person's record to be close enough. The AI guy found it right off the bat, 10 seconds. Here it was. Saved me a bunch of time. If you trust, Find a Grave. This one had a stone, as I recall. So that was good. There wasn't any other documentation, just the stone. So you just say, okay, hopefully it's right. Okay, now add a couple of extra little features. So I'm over here on Ewing Smoot, and I don't have a death date form. And so I asked my question, I got directed to Find a Grave. That's nice. But then I realized underneath where it talks about Find a Grave, where that bottom arrow's pointing up, is a thing that says all sources. Little teeny tiny link. I love FamilySearch. They love to hide stuff. And this is one they hid very well. When I clicked on all sources, I get a list like that. A zillion sources. and I can copy them down. I can do a copy and paste onto a document if I want. I'm going to find that there's a bunch of them out on the web. And several of them are fine to grade, because you know how it is. If dad has the kids listed, mom has the kids listed, and you're looking for the kid, well, they're going to be found on mom and dad's find a graves, and maybe a brother has his siblings listed. So there's a lot of interconnections here on this person. So there's several find a grave ones there. But there's also 3 teasers to go over to Ancestry and find stuff there. There's also 2 WikiTree articles. WikiTree is a neat website where people will put a lot of good resources on the pages for the people that are in their website. Much better than just about anywhere else. And there's also a county history of his father, and there's also a land survey that he's mentioned in. So all those things are found out on the web, outside FamilySearch. And then there were 4 different sources that it found in FamilySearch. And the guy only has 2 of them attached to him. So the other 2 need to be sourced to this guy too. This is the power of this. It can pull up all kinds of stuff for you and save you hours of digging around. Okay, the other one is, what was it like questions, okay? So I saw that, what was it like when this guy was alive? So I thought, okay, well, I'm going to try it out. This is my grandpa. And this grandpa, my dad's dad, died in a mine accident, as opposed to my mom's dad, who died from black lung disease, a coal miner back east. My grandpa out here was a gold miner and got blown up in a mine explosion, 1918. So I said, okay. And it says you can ask questions. So I wrote a question and said, since he died in 1918 in the gold mining explosion, how dangerous was mining in the United States between 1900 and 1920? Oh, that's a reasonable question to ask. I know the answer. They had a 10% mortality rate per year. 10% of all miners died every year. That's not an occupation you want to be involved in. Okay, I put that in, it came back, well, I'm sorry, I can't answer your question about that, but I'd be happy to help you with any genealogical questions related to Joseph Craig Givens. I didn't mention my grandpa. That's the thing I learned from that. If I'm going to do this, I got to make sure I relate it to the person. Okay? So I went and clicked on their canned question. What was life like? Okay? And it gave me a whole document. Now, what I did is I put it in Word, because it's in this narrow column and it's going to go for several feet. And I'd never get it all on the screen, so I put it on a Word document and shrunk it down so you could see it better. And it tells just a brief life story of him using the data from FamilySearch, and then it includes some information about mining in the mining industry at that time, because it knew he was a miner. Talked a little bit about his family life, and then about health and social issues. You know something that was going on in 1918, I think. The end of World War I and a little thing called the Spanish flu. In fact, my grandfather caught the Spanish flu and lived. He was a lucky one, maybe. The day he went back to work after getting the flu was the day he was killed.
Oh, God.
So he wasn't so lucky.
Oh, God.
Talk about ironic. And then it gives some sources down at the bottom. Okay? And so that gave me ideas. So I said, okay, let's try my first question again. Let's change it a little bit. And so I changed it to, what was life like for Joseph Craig Givens in Oakman, Arizona in 1918. That's where he died. And it gave me back the fact that this was tragic for him because he died there, and it talked about mining explosion, how he was mucking out. It read the news article, pulled out the information from the news article, and then talked about in general how dangerous it was to be involved in the mining industry at that time. And then says there's 4 sources. And so in addition to that, I found some sources about my grandfather, a couple of them that I didn't know about. And so these are the kinds of things you can do with this. It really has some great applications. Like I say, if you don't have a tree, you've all got an account, I would imagine, to FamilySearch, because you want to look at their records. Then just go over to tree and do a search, say find, put in the husband's name and the wife's name, unless it's John Smith and Mary Jones. Then you're going to have some issues. But for most couples, you put in the husband's name and the wife's name, that's probably all you're going to have to give them, and you'll find the person. And then make sure this thing's turned on, and then you can do the searching with this tool and find things about the people. It's really a phenomenal tool, and it's only going to get better. Okay, like I said, at the bottom of the handout, it shows you a link to the Fresno North State Family Search Center. I do a lot of these. I have about 86 videos up there now. And so you've got 86 of them you can look at if you're interested. There's a blue link near the top up there, and that's the link to the blog. And it's just the Fresno North State Family History Center.blogspot.com. And at that place you can find like the page for this lesson and go on it, and it will have the link for the slides. You can click on it and get a PDF document. So that's it. That's all we got, folks. Any questions?
No.
Yeah.
You said it's very literal, and I know in Ancestry I can add alternate names when it finds a different, like it's using, versus using a nickname, whatever.
It hasn't got that yet.
So I was wondering if FamilySearch has that, and does it look at nicknames or alternate
And
names?
you're gonna have to do multiple searches
Okay.
and maybe put in the question the name you're looking for or what you want. Because it is tricky that way, because it's just very literal.
So when it's looking for a woman who's married, does it only search under the maiden name, and you have to tell it to search under the married name, or will it search?
It's not ready yet.
It's gonna look for the name that's listed as the primary surname on that record. Now, you can have alternate surnames, but it doesn't pick up that alternate.
Thank you.
You know, so it's a little bit tricky on that. But I tell you, it's really been a game changer. I find myself just going to it now when I'm doing research because it's just so convenient. You know, instead of having to go over and click on FamilySearch and then scroll through pages of things trying to find something, I can just, okay, I need a marriage record for this person, click marriage, see what comes up. Then if nothing comes up, then I'm going to have to do it the hard way. And it really does save time. Yes?
So kind of to tag off what she was saying, so I have a family member where in English it's Michael, in Spanish it's Miguel. So I have to be literal when I'm,
Probably, you know, it'll be what's on the record.
okay.
And so that's the thing we're going to
So I'm
have
gonna have to
to
squeeze
be
time
concerned
in and
about.
read. Okay,
Change the question
but
to
it's not
Miguel.
gonna know.
If it's showing Michael for his name, write a question, but make it Miguel.
So if I'm, let's say I'm looking in Puerto Rico, so I make it Miguel, and if I'm looking in New York, make it Michael?
Yeah,
Okay, got it.
well, if that's what's going to have to come up. The catch with that is you don't know. You know, it may or may not.
So you gotta try both ways, all right, thank you.
Yeah. Oh, it's fun, I know. Mine are Germans. And so, you know, I have Markel. Is it M-A-R-K-E-L or L-E? Or is it Merkel? Did they change it with an E in the middle? M-E-R. And they can just be a mess. My mother, her maiden name was Hale. But if you go back to her great-grandfather, it's Hell. H-E-L-L. I wonder why they changed it. Actually, it means bright or brilliant in German. And in Pennsylvania, there's all these people named Light or Bright. I always thought those are weird last names for people, Light or Bright. I've never seen that before. I understand why now. I know what they used to be. They were all hell. because they didn't like that name, everybody gave them a bad time for some reason. So anyway, try it out, you'll love it. I think you'll really like it, just give it a shot.
That was
And there'll
good,
be
thank you.
more.